What up, brothers and sisters? It's your brother G World 7_D. Now I have Lee Cummings' book, The Negro, Question Who I Am, the revised version. Now I'm gonna go on tape. I'm gonna say page 117. Let's try 116, 114 first. Read chapter 7. I'm gonna read this real quick if I can get it. So here it is, and this is in his book. He talks about Benjamin Franklin's essay, 1751, America as a Land of Opportunity, from Library of Congress. And since detachments of English from Britain sent to America will have their places at home so soon supplied and increase so largely here, who will shortly be so numerous as to Germanize us instead of our anglifying them, and will never adopt our language or customs any more than they can acquire our complexion. All Africa is black or tawny, Asia chiefly tawny, America exclusive of the newcomers, wholly so. In Europe, the Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, and Swedes are generally of what we call a swarthy complexion, as are the Germans also. And he goes on, swarthy was a medieval word for black. Alright? Now, I'm going to skip on over here and going to read this part. He said Franklin said Spain, Italy, France, Russia, Swedes, and Germany was swarthy or black. Benjamin Franklin wasn't calling foul. He said detachments, an army of Englishmen won their way to the 13 colonies to put down the civil unrest. But they were not Englishmen. So he talks about black people, these black people from Europe, coming over and helping to basically settle the 13 colonies. Now I'm going to go further on. I'm going to skip on down here. In his book, German Austrian National, and you see this is the Negro, the Landgravite of Hessen-Kassel under Frederick II, an uncle of King George III, a Negro, initially provided over 12,000 soldiers to fight in the Americas. This is what I have been trying to tell you. King George was a black German king from the House of Hanover. Benjamin Franklin told the truth when he said the Germans were black people. But the historians in this generation refuse to listen. No, they make everything white. These white historians make everything white. And I showed you before how in Germany was this tapestry, and it showed the black king maintaining his castle with his black wife and the princess and the many different brothers with bow and arrows. And the type of shoes that they're wearing is the type of shoes that you see that not only might have seen in ancient Egypt, but you've seen them among some of the aboriginal black tribes here in America. I always told you it was always a connection. I mentioned before there was numerous of black people here in the ancient Americas. All right. Many of them have been relabeled or reclassified as white or repainted as white, which is a lie. These white folks are good at that. Now here we go. This one goes on. I'm going to go and read this part. All right. The Journal of German Private Daniel Flora. The Battle of Yorktown. All right. Now let me get if I can get a clear picture. These days, later on the morning of October the 13th, the articles of capitulation of the English army, black German Hessians, were signed. Afterwards, the troops were free to inspect the damage that they inflicted. Flora was horrified. Everywhere there were dead bodies. They were all Morin. Private Flora uses the adjective Morin, which is derived from the word Morin, or more. which was an ancient name for black. Private Floor diary is an eyewitness account of the armies present at Yorktown. What armies fought at Yorktown? The Haitian army, German Hessians, French Swedes, colonists, Continental Army, and yet the eyewitness, Private Floor, said they were all black. This means that the colonists were black. The key to understanding the general makeup of the army lies in the truth. Written by Benjamin Franklin, essay 1751. The English are sending an army supplied by the Germans, who are black/swarthy, and they can never acquire our complexion. Now, what bugs me is that you can find this information in other books and in the Library of Congress. You can find this information is there. You still, like I said before in other videos, you still have Negroes claiming that they're just slaves from Africa. That has to really stop, man. I want brothers and sisters, I always emphasize this, do not listen to these clowns. Do not listen to most of these Negro professors, because they give you misinformation and they continue to lie to you and they can tell you false information. You know white folks gonna lie. They're good at it. That's all they do is lie. They reclassified, they took our history and gave us theirs. And made us to quote our history just being slavery. And that's all you're going to hear do Negro History Month is slavery. It's slavery this. Or Langston Hughes did this. Or Zora Neale Hurston did this. Or Malcolm X did this. The same Negro history, man. Not talking about our full history and being fully detailed with it. You're going to have Henry Louis Gates talking about he traveled around the United States and interviewed, quote, African Americans and about their African lineage. That guy is a straight up sellout, man. But this is what you get during this month. Negro History Month. This is what you all you're going to get is that you were once a slave. That's all. You were once a slave. And that's your full history is being a slave. And we can't continue to have that, man. We can't continue to identify ourselves as just being descendants of slaves from Africa when most of us are descendants of the black people already here. I know it's hard for some people. That's a tough pill to swallow because we've been so indoctrinated with being descendants of African slaves and thinking we have white people's last names, which we don't. What happened was once the black people were expelled or taken out of rulership, the white folks stole their identity, they stole their names. They did that over in Europe with these English names. They did that over here. They did it here in the Americas with these damn Indian tribes, and they did it over in Asia, man. These people are continuing to hijack your history, steal your history, lie about your history. They did it over in Africa. They continue to basically suck themselves in the thing. They come, quote, I guess it's peaceful initially. And then they just come and they violently just take over your stuff, man. They've done this. Even you can say, look at the music here that we invented here. White folks want to claim that jazz was created by them. Or they'll say things like, oh, jazz was created by black people but using European instruments. Whatever, man. But that's the nonsense that you get from these people. That's the nonsense that you get from these people. And unfortunately, so many Negroes want to be next to Massa, want to hold hands with Massa, want to date and marry Massa, and start not realizing the fact is that these people have an agenda to steal, to rob, to pillage, and murder, and take everything that's ours and make it theirs. They've written this out of history, man. So I'm going to read this. It's also in this book. Destruction of New York. Alright? Destruction of New York. I'm just going to read it instead of just holding it up. This image is called Destruction of the Statue Royal in New York. On here it says, take a close look at the images because these are not slaves. These are black Germans destroying the statue of King George III, the black German handover king of England. All right, if you can see it. And he could better see it in his other book. I think I might pull out the other book. See these little black men right here? Destroying the statue of King George. You can see it clearly. But then he goes on right here. And I'm going to read this, all right? He talks about Commander William Howe and how he was swarthy and black, 6 feet tall with bad teeth. British Commander William Howe, black Brit, with black German Hessian troops, marched into New York in 1775 and occupied the city for 6 years. Remember that what Benjamin Franklin said, the Germans are swarthy black, and that the English army is really German. The black German army was hired by the English crown and riding under the English flag. The eyewitness description of the Commander William Howe is that he was a black man. The words of Professor Boyd Dawkins have taken hold of this book when he said, the Britons are a black people. Black Germans occupied New York 6 years. All right, so he talks about the different black Europeans that were here. Now, I mentioned that before, how you had numerous different blacks that came here. All right. Now, here's more images. And this is in his book. This is in Lee Cummings' book. This is the first one. Okay, this is called The Burning of Charlestown, 1775. And this is in National Archives, too. In 1780, British General Cornwallis and the black German Hessian army invaded and occupied Charleston, Massachusetts. Black Germans occupied Charleston 2.5 years. All right. Here's just one image of a black German drummer. There's a feather in his damn head too, man, around his head. In the year of 1768, the British sent 4,000 contracted black German troops into Boston to police the city after their revolt to the Townshend Act. The Townshend Act were a series of measures passed by the British Parliament in 1767 that taxed goods imported to the American colonies. The colonists objected because they felt that they were being taxed without representation. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Benjamin Franklin said they were swarthy Germans, and Thomas Jefferson said they were foreign missionaries. All right, here's more images of Negroes that were here. Here's more images, and I'm going to continue to read in the book right here. This image is engraved by Paul Revere, who had an engraving business and was contracted by the United States government. Take a closer look at the redcoats. Take a closer look at the redcoats. Black Germans. The English soldiers are black, but remember the ethnic makeup of the army included black Scots and black Germans. This depiction of the English army by Paul Revere is consistent with the eyewitness account of Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and Private Daniel Fleur. The Germans were swarthy and more. All right, the British occupied Philadelphia from September 1778 to June 1778, exactly 10 months. The English army was led by General Cornwallis and black German Hessian General Wilhelm. All right, the establishment is hiding the Hessian pictures, black German occupation of Philadelphia, 10 months. So you still had the black rulership in Europe going on into the 18th century. All right. In the year 1778, the English, led by Lieutenant Colonel Archibald Campbell, led an invasion of Savannah, Georgia, with an army of contracted black German Hessian troops. Colonel Archibald was a Scottish landowner from the Highlands of Scotland. And what did Professor Boyd Dawkins tell us about the Highlanders? He said they were black, swarthy. There were 4 black armies present at the Battle of Savannah, Georgia: Haiti, France, Germany, and the colonies. I have a ship's manifest from the Liverpool, a ship used to transport Jacobite rebels in 1745 that gives an accurate description of the Campbells, black German occupation of Savannah, Georgia, 4 years. Now, We know that a lot of those black people in Britain, Wales, and Scotland was being exported here to the Americas, man. They don't tell you that those are Negro people. Those are so-called black people. That's what. So when I hear some of these black folks with their little Irish name, like remember the late quarterback Steve McNair or Donovan McNabb, brother from Chicago, those are not white names. Like I said earlier, those are names of the black Irish, but their identity was hijacked and white folks stole it. Now, I told you before, these white folks did not have last names, man. Some of them did not have first names. These people were barbaric. They ruled nothing. They controlled nothing in Europe. It was controlled by Negro people. Remember, Europe, Asia, and Africa really were connected. It was a damn Suez Canal, or the building of that canal that separate what you call now Asia and Africa. So basically people were able to walk across into Asia and then walk over to Europe. These Negroes, the Negroes were able to walk if they wanted to, but a lot of them took the ships and then travel across. I'm telling you this is the fact is all these lands were originally Negro, man. All these lands belong to the Aboriginal blacks of that region. And it's not impossible for the original people of Europe to be black when you had the original people of Africa, particularly North Africa, were black. And despite of what these goofy scholars would tell you, man, they know deep down inside it was genetically impossible for their pale asses to survive in heat. Because many of these albinos living in Africa, particularly was in a country, I want to say Tanzania, where many of them only live to a certain age and they cannot be out in the sun too long. So, and these people wear full clothing. Those ancients, they wore light clothing or no clothing. It's genetically impossible for them to be in that heat, to be white or pale skin. So all those people were black, man. All of them were black, or so-called black. They were melanated people. They were heavily melanated people who wanted to survive in that warm climate. White folks, they had nothing to do with this. So you still had white folks, you still had your indigenous black people in Europe. The problem with what went down with the black people in Europe, you had a lot of sellouts, man. You had what you call dirty Moors who sold our people out, man. And they did anything for the quest for power. So I want to tell you, brothers and sisters, this is that you really, really, really got to do the research and study into this stuff, because this information's there. You just got to just dig deep and try to find it. The information's in your face. It's in your face. It's all there. And I just want to really emphasize that, hitting that. I want to just focus on this book real quick, because this is a good book and it's a simple read, man. Because he has numerous volumes on this book talking about the black occupation in Europe. Why would you have all these images of black people with crowns in Europe, and you still see people, the Catholic priests, still praying to the images of black popes and black rulers who once ruled Europe? But yeah, you listen to white folks, they were slaves. Everything's a slave. Everything's a slave. This is why I question all you Negroes who want to date and marry them, man. Everybody's a slave to them. Okay, this is Lee Cummings' other book. They're taking down the statue of King George. This is his other book. And you see that more of a color image of the German soldiers. Those are Negroes. All right, and get Professor Boyd Dawkins' book. That's a good book too, man, if you're able to get a hold of it, because it talks about the original people, the original black people. Do these look like Caucasian to you? Do these look like African slaves? So our brothers and sisters, we got to get out of that mess with just African slaves, man. We have to get out of that type of thinking. Is that our people just came here on a slave ship. No, most of us are a mixture of various different black groups. I've stated that before. We are a mixture of various different black groups. We are indigenous to this land, but we are a mixture of various different black groups. And I mentioned this numerous of times. And I talked about how white people have invaded the black cultures around 1200 or 1500 or 1200 AD, or BC, excuse me, and 449 AD. So you had these herds of white people invading black areas, black civilizations. They are not indigenous to nothing. So don't get it twisted. They weren't the ancient Romans. They weren't the ancient Greeks. They weren't the original Vikings. They're none of that. Alright. And I had suggested before Dr. David Imhotep's book. His book is a good book. My disagreement was him when he said that these so-called pale Asians came over here 3,000 years ago. No, they didn't come around no 3,000 years ago. They came around like the 12th or 13th century, man. They didn't come around no 3,000 years ago. And it sure as hell was not here 12,000 years ago, crossing through no damn Bering Straits, because them bastards didn't exist. Alright, so we have to understand dates. We have to understand time periods. But once we really study our history and get in these study groups, man, we'll be okay. But some of these dudes who talk that Pan-African stuff, I throw that out the window, man. That stuff is garbage. But I'm not saying that black people around the world cannot get together or just try to because of a bondage to our skin tone. That'd be nice, but you also got to remember it was so-called black people sold us out here in the Americas, sold black people out over in Asia, sold black people over out in Africa, sold other black people out in Europe, man. So just because you black, that means you down. I just want to finish this video just saying this, man. Our history is gold. It's a gem. And we really need to reclaim everything. We need to reclaim our history, reclaim who we truly are, and we'll be fine. We really will be fine. I don't think there's no hope for black folks. I'm hearing Negroes talking about there's no hope. Our race is done. Our people are done. Man, please. No, I don't buy that. I don't buy into any of that mess. We're fine once we truly know who the hell we are. An idiot who tells you that we should not care about our ancient past is an enemy and a traitor. It's more like you get a lot of those little divestors, the bed bucks and the bed wenches who will say stuff like that. Alright, so I want brothers and sisters to continue to study. This is just on a whim that I did this one. Alright? Because I didn't want to do this. Well, I want to talk about black Europeans, but not necessarily this. I was going to talk about something else. Dealing with some... Probably was going to try to show you where Timbuktu's at in California. I was going to do that. And then show you some more images of the natural rocks that are here, earth structures that were carved into. I showed you one of the books, but I wanted to get a little bit more detail with that particular book. They're dealing with natural monuments here in North America. So, but I'm done with this video, and I'm going to do another one, and that one won't be a wing it. I decided to put this up there because I think people should get this book by Brother Lee Cummings. He has a nice series of books. This one and this one with the German soldiers on there. Alright. I think you need to get it. It's a great read, and it tells you, unfortunately, how the black folks lost their power. One is that globally we was fighting amongst each other. And even though You have people who look like us, they're not us. And that's a tough pill for some of us to swallow. But that's true. There's people who just sold us out, man. And they end up procreating with other groups, end up bleaching themselves out. That, to me, I don't care if you're so-called black, whatever, that's a traitor, man, to do stuff like that. And, I hear Negroes want to do that mess today. I have issues with some black women, but I will not throw all black women under the bus. I will not have pit one group of black women against another group of black women. That's stupid. And that's childish. Vice versa, we're doing with men too. So I wanted to say that. That's something I just want to say that's on my mind, man. And it's so frustrating because I see the potential in us, man. But many of us don't see that. And our true history just sitting right in front of our faces. Is there. And I don't think we need to waste our time listening to white folks or these other non-black people or these doggone traitors like Henry Louis Gates. Like a lot of these black entertainers. Don't listen to them, man. They have sold us out.